All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. All right. You guys should see my screen right now. And good. I'm super excited. We did this about a year ago in live, obviously, in Austin. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun. It was an all-day event. And this, obviously, it's going to be all-day digital, but we have a ton of things lined up, as Crystal and Dan have talked to you guys about. Let me get started. A little bit about myself. I started QuestionPro back in 2005. Originally, I'm from India. I grew up in a place called Calcutta or Kolkata, however you want to describe it today. I went to, after high school, I couldn't get into one of the IITs, I really wanted to study computer science, computer engineering. I couldn't get into the IITs. For all of you guys that don't know, IITs like the premier, the Ivy League, Stanford, Harvard of India, I would argue. Couldn't get into any of the colleges there, and decided to, right after high school, decided to go to Moscow, Russia to study. Don't ask me why, but I ended up there for a couple of years. Drank a lot of vodka, I will tell you that. And then I landed up in Provo, Utah, like I said in the chat. Went to a school called Brigham Young University out there. Then lived in Seattle for about 11 years. Lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then right now, for the last 1 year, I've been living in Austin. So it's been a great journey. I mean, all over the globe to some extent. I started QuestionPro back in 2005. Ran it for about 5 years, then took a break for another 3 or 4 or 5 years. And then since 2015, I've been running QuestionPro again. Just a little bit about the company itself. So we are, we're obviously founded in Seattle, and just kind of some stats about us that gives you some perspective. Today we are doing somewhere to the tune of almost, 8 million surveys per month. It's about 2 million surveys a week is what, 2 million responses a week is what we are collecting across our entire platform. And I'll talk a little bit about our platform also in a minute. And fundamentally, we are in the business of kind of, collecting attitudinal data on behalf of our clients. And this has been, for me personally, it's been a great journey as a bootstrapped entrepreneur. We have never raised money. We decided not to raise money. We decided we can do this thing ourselves. I have a great team with me, as you can see. We have Dan, we have Ken, we have Kodo, we have Anoop. Most of us have been together for quite a while. And most of our roots are in Seattle. So all of us have been working with each other for almost, 7 to 10 years, approximately. And we are fairly global. If you think about it, most of you think of us as a kind of a US-centric company, but we are not actually. We have a huge team in India. We have almost 140 employees in India. In the States, we were kind of trying to consolidate in Austin, but clearly COVID has disrupted, like everybody else has disrupted our plans too. And so now today we are hiring anywhere and everywhere within the States also. We have a fairly large team in Mexico that caters to our Latin America business, and the team in Germany caters to our European business. And we also have a small sales office in Dubai that caters towards the Middle East business. So we are, very distributed from that perspective. And one of the things that we really invested in is not only from a people perspective, but from a data residency and a data center perspective also. We have 6 data centers that we operate throughout the globe. And this is primarily for data protection. Most countries, most government institutions want, in-country data centers. This is basically true for, vis-a-vis GDPR, CCPA, and all these things. Data residency has become a big issue, even between Canada and the States. Most Canadian customers want the data to be in Canada, and so we have a data center in Toronto for that. Obviously, for the European customers, it's in Germany, and Middle East, it's in Dubai, and so on and so forth. So it's been a big kind of big part of our strategy to go into expand globally. I want to take 2 minutes and talk about our kind of product platform, also the way we see how our business evolving. We really see 3 pillars to our business. One is research and insights that Dan leads, and really is going deep into research. We strongly believe that research is the bedrock of a lot of decision making, and over the last 8 months, frankly, the research business has actually gone up for us. And it's primarily because people are making bigger and bolder decisions. If you think about it, people are, faced with COVID and faced with, so many different changes in such a compressed amount of time frame. People want data. People want data to make decisions. Should employees come to work, not come to work? What is the future? And so that is kind of what we call the research and insights business. And within that, as you can see in the slide, there are like, 4 different components to it, qualitative, quantitative, and the audience piece, and then of course some services associated with it. The second part to our business is what we call customer experiences, where people are trying to figure out how is their experience delivery with their customers going. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it ugly? Can you kind of predict it? Can you kind of presuppose it? What's going on over there with existing customers? And that's kind of our second part of our business. Ken leads that business. And the third part of our business is really, again, surveys oriented towards employees. And not just surveys, but also kind of apps and tools for continuous feedback, continuous kind of monitoring, continuous mechanism of giving feedback to your employers, really. That's the 360 reviews and the pulse and so on and so forth. So those are 3 broad pillars of our business, realistically. And so I want to start out with like the obvious elephant in the room, really, which is COVID-19. So, if you don't talk about it, we are kind of ignoring the obvious right now. And, I will tell you on a very deeply personal level, I think March was really scary for us. Clearly, we didn't know what was going to happen. The uncertainty was kind of mind-boggling as a business, personally, and everything combined into one. And we decided to go, what we call work from anywhere. We not only just work from home, we just said, we cannot sustain this kind of, disruption. And we decided as a company to go, we are going to make a decision. We are not going to have an office. That's why we are hiring anywhere and everywhere, even in the States and in fact, globally right now. And we're going to go full digital effectively. I mean, I will tell you, we are blessed with the fact that, we are a full tech company. We can function digitally. We can operate digitally. As you can see, we're running a conference that is completely digital. And we're going to go full digital. We're going to bet on digital. We're going to go all in. We're not just going to do it like, oh yeah, we'll come back. No, we're going to go, we're going to bet on we shut down our office. Ken is in Austin, so he has to take up a Regis. So, because we don't have our offices anymore, even in Austin. And I'm super proud of the fact that even in the last 6 months, obviously, month 1, which was March, April, was pretty scary, and we kept on going. And obviously we've gone through 2 or 3 iterations now, and not only us, I'm pretty sure all of us have gone through a couple of iterations, and we are continuing to deliver and continuing to execute. We're running the conference, we're adding more features, we're keeping things up and running. So business is as usual. In fact, actually, thriving. Quite frankly, it's actually doing reasonably well. I also want to talk about that's about us, but I really want to talk about two stories, 2 customers of ours that I'm at least I'm personally very proud of, that we were able to help them in some way, shape, or form through the COVID crisis, at least in our own small way. The first one is the Boston Convention Center. I think they're owned by the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority. It's a mouthful, but so they came to us and said, like, okay, look, you're running a convention center. You have vendors, customers, and this was early in the pandemic. Vendors, customers, employees, all of us coming in and out. We need some way of doing some sort of health screening. And all of us have experienced some sort of health screening, and as we've kind of gone about our daily lives, and they wanted to get something up and running really fast. Within 24 hours, we needed to have a survey up and running, have a logic model against that survey, and then notify people if they chose a particular path effectively. And so this was done literally in real time, a couple of days, and we were able to get a survey up and running. Not only us, the customers also, we work with them very closely. And they were able to kind of execute on that project around just doing health screenings and if you think about the convention center, it's not just, employees. They have vendors coming in, customers coming in, employees coming in. So they have a wide variety of constituents that they are servicing within the organization. And we were able to kind of quickly do the health screening model for them, execute on it, not just talk about it, execute on it, and keep it functional and running for the next, a few months. So that is something that I'd say that's a great example of how we kind of move fast and got things done for the Boston Convention Center. The other one that I like to kind of bring up is kind of the American Cancer Society. So we got to know them over the last year or so, and ACS runs this massive program around kind of cancer screening and kind of collecting data from over, I think it's 350,000 people volunteer the data, and they use that data to kind of determine cause effects. In fact, one of the seminal studies that they did was around smoking and cancer. They kind of correlated smoking and cancer. So they collect a lot of behavioral data and correlate that to outcomes like cancer realistically. So ACS, they've been doing this study. It's not the first. I mean, they've been doing this for 25, 30 years realistically, and they're a very traditional kind of like paper and pencil mailing surveys. And they came to us and said, like, we need to kind of evolve. We need to kind of modernize the system, and we need to engage our constituents. We need to engage all these people who are there, and we need to collect rapid data. I mean, sending out a mailer anymore and waiting for the mail back is just obviously not going to work. I mean, it is going to work, but we need to kind of modernize our system. And we work very closely with them to kind of come up with some ideas around kind of engaging them through a community process that enables them to give live data, video feedback, not just paper and pencil feedback, video feedback, a platitude of kind of options open up. Frankly, once you go digital, amazing number of options open up. So we've worked with the kind of the cancer.org for almost a year now, and we will continue working with them for the next many years to kind of enable engagement within the community, and created a community for all their patients. And then from there, not only that, we are talking with them about integrating other kinds of data, not only state of choice data, not only kind of attitudinal data, but also behavioral data, like integrating with health systems and things like Fitbit and so on and so forth. So in terms of collecting kind of passive data from behavioral models, and integrate that into the data set, if you will, almost building a kind of like a patient data platform for them effectively together. So that's something that obviously that's not massively COVID related, but definitely something that we have partnered very closely with them over the last year and a half or so, that I'm definitely very, very proud of in the last in the year or so. I want to talk about four mega trends that we see that are happening in the ecosystem effectively right now. Obviously, the first one is COVID. Realistically, the virus has hastened the adoption of virtual work. That's kind of a chart that you can see of Zoom going from 60,000 daily active users. That's just in the UK right now. That chart is just for the UK, going from 60,000 to almost 1 million in a span of 3-4 months. Really, that's a 20x, 15x increase in terms of participation. What does that really mean? You'll also, what it means is, you'll see like this is a mega trend that's happening in terms of, massive acceleration to digital, full collaboration, full global, really. I also believe that, we are entering a kind of really flat world. As you can see, we have people from South Africa, India, everywhere coming together in this conference. And that is just an example of kind of like flattening of everything, quite frankly. And as part of that, Kodo and Anoop are going to talk about kind of a couple of new interesting features in terms of live collaboration of surveys. We believe that kind of collaboration is one of the pillars of how people work going forward. Although we are all miles and miles and thousands of miles apart, we can collaborate seamlessly. We are here. We are in a Zoom call. It's everybody's a Zoom call and a video conference call away. And so that's a mega trend. That's something that was not at least conceptually, even though physically we could argue that this was still possible, a year ago, but emotionally and operationally, we didn't accept that. But today, clearly we do. So that's one thing that we'll talk about later on. And also kind of going along the same lines, researchers also have to evolve kind of based on that mega trend. And Dan's going to talk a little bit about digital focus groups and a very, very cool integration that we've done with our product with Zoom. So imagine a Zoom call like this. We are, in real time, we are transcribing everything that we're saying, and researchers are able to highlight, pinpoint, and talk and identify interesting anecdotes of information, interesting insights that are coming out. And not only researchers are able to do it, our vision is, we have an AI platform also in the future that will kind of keep monitoring the data stream and then kind of identify interesting ideas that are coming up through a conversation in a Zoom call effectively. That's something that Dan's going to talk about in the future, and later on today rather. The second mega trend I want to talk about is just mobile, social, visual. I call it visual also, partly because if you think about it, mobile and social have been kind of fairly accelerated even before the last year or so, or 2 years or so. But I specifically, if you start looking at what's happened with TikTok and Snapchat also was there a couple of years ago, but TikTok's growth has been kind of eclipsed. TikTok growth has eclipsed even WhatsApp growth effectively, and the key difference there was kind of the visual element of it. And that has become kind of a very interesting kind of phenomena that at least we see as a mega trend in terms of everything that's visual, everything that is interactive is actually brings out more rich data. And following that mega trend, we are kind of I'll talk a little bit about Livecast, which is effectively any question or any questionnaire, on any survey, we are enabling a video and audio input functionality. So anybody, if you have a text box, if you have an input box, that people can not only type in their text, they can speak their text, and then they can record their conversation, record and submit the recorded copy of the data. So we believe that's part of that mega trend in terms of kind of engaging that. And then also kind of the way we interact. We have another feature called conversational forms that we'll be either partnering with the company or we'll be launching in the next couple of months. And that is a kind of a more kind of interactive version of our survey process, which is a little bit more kind of natural and engaging effectively. So those are the two kind of ideas that we have along that follows that trend effectively. The third trend, I would say, is kind of the empowered, what I call the empowered consumer. The rise of social media has unleashed kind of a huge challenge for companies. They don't control, companies don't control the narrative of the brand anymore. People control the narrative of the brand. And because of that, the brand narrative is controlled by influencers, campaigns, and people realistically. Churn is no longer kind of a result of products or pricing or promotions. It's all about values right now. Accenture's kind of pivotal studies found that 62% of customers wanted companies to stand up for issues that they're passionate about. So preventing churn is a pretty important element. And that's kind of it's probably the most important element. I know for B2B SaaS companies like us, churn is the one, every single guy I've talked to. And if you talk to anybody in the B2B SaaS world, they'll talk about churn. They'll talk about, hey, you got to keep customers happy. Not only do you have to keep customers happy, you have to keep them engaged. You have to keep them you have to keep innovating on behalf of your customers because they are paying you every hour, every minute, every day, realistically. And that's the kind of the beauty of the SaaS model on that side. And so we want to kind of really think about kind of keeping customers not only keeping customers happy, keeping them blissfully happy, really. And so and we have some ideas, and Ken is going to talk about later on towards the day, he's going to talk about kind of NPS Plus, where we've kind of reimagined how we measure customer satisfaction. Not only measure it, but understand the root cause of it, I predict churn, and also engage with our customers in terms of what we call co-creation. So we kind of say okay, customers are your fountain of ideas. Customers, I know I've talked to a ton of customers at QuestionPro that have given me all the ideas that I have. Scott was there earlier on in the call, and Scott and Chris are two of my friends from Seattle. They helped me build our conjoint platform. Effectively, they gave me a lot of ideas. Not only they gave me ideas, they gave me valuable input in terms of how to model kind of the Logit model and everything else. When I was starting off QuestionPro, I didn't know anything about conjoint, and I learned it from our customers realistically. So that's something that kind of now that we think are, we think is important to kind of have that process around customer churn and kind of getting a handle of that. And the final megatrend is around, what I call entrepreneurism or intrapreneurism rather. Most companies, if they do not clearly know this, and I don't have to kind of say this, like most companies that do not innovate will fail. Most of the, Fortune 500 companies, their shelf life is like 15 to 18 years, and these are big companies. And if you think about it, even smaller companies, if you are not innovating, you're clearly not going to be able to survive beyond year 2 or year 3 effectively. And what does that mean from a kind of an organizational perspective? And we thought about it and say, like, okay, what we think is like we need to be able to have kind of an employee engagement to a level that is like that we want to innovate on. And we'll be talking a little bit about, at least from our perspective, we have a mobile app that enables, employees to give feedback to their employers realistically. And not only that, but also we want to truly innovate over here and say we want employees to ask questions off of each other also. It's not just about giving feedback. It's about kind of getting some value out of the system. So not just, almost like think of it as, employees running their own surveys against each other. So that's the one kind of like feature set that we want to add to our portfolio effectively to kind of enable, to kind of really, we thought a lot about employee engagement, and that's kind of the reason why we're doing that. So that being said, I think that the overall kind of construct that we are kind of anchoring on as a company, as QuestionPro, we are anchoring on is really advancing research. I mean, if you think about all the stuff that I've talked about, it I think it distills us down to we want to make research better, faster, cheaper, and in fact more innovative. We really want to move the needle further, and that's kind of, at least that is collectively, I would say, that is QuestionPro's vision of what we want to do in 2020, towards the end of 2020, and as well as going into 2021 effectively, and obviously through technology. And we're a tech company, we're a software company, we're a software platform, at its core, and that's what we'll be. And there are, I want to jump into, 3 ideas that, this is a sampling. These are the 3 ideas that we've come up with. That we like we said earlier on, there are a lot of features to release. But at least I want to surface out these 3 ideas, and all these 3 ideas are going to get talked about. And we're gonna present them to you, and we're gonna talk about it, and frankly, we're gonna iterate on it over the next few months. But I would like to kind of showcase that right now, at least these 3 ideas that I feel are reasonably kind of like out there and interesting for all of us to at least kind of take a look at and think about. First one is why we built Livecast. Like I talked about earlier on. It was really about getting the audio visual into the equation effectively, right? So obviously, we are collecting a lot of information, and getting audio visual feedback is a part that we think is going to be super important and super actually exploratory realistically. And for that, the first baseline was to make it ridiculously easy for anybody to give audiovisual feedback to anybody else. So that's kind of like, that's the kind of core reason why we built Livecast. And what it is actually not that complicated, quite frankly. It's like any survey. You have a button, you click on that, hit the record button, share your thoughts, share your comments, and that's about it. About 65-70% of all the surveys we do today are mobile. Which used to be more like 20% even 5-6 years ago. And now it's about almost, the majority of all our surveys that we run is mobile effectively. And, and pretty much almost every single mobile device has a phone and a microphone, a microphone and a camera, obviously. And so this is from a tech perspective, I think this is fairly easy to do. But the hard part is, transcription, emotional detection, emotional recognition, as well as kind of like categorizing that. So so those are the tougher ones. And our first iteration is going to be just, we can catch up. We allow anybody to capture audiovisual feedback, and we kind of expose that as part of the survey. It's actually ridiculously easy to do it. You just add a question type that's a live cast, and and you can, just like how you add a text box, you add a live cast question, and that's it. We collect the videos, we store the videos, we transcribe the videos. Not only do we transcribe the videos, we also apply sentiment analysis on it. And not only sentiment analysis, we do topic modeling also, so to understanding different topics, what are people talking about, and then aggregating them out. So that's something that we plan on. We are launching. It's already launched. It's in beta with a bunch of our customers. We're running it in beta right now. And so far, it's been hugely positive, realistically. And so I'm definitely excited about that. The second one is what we call NPS Plus. Like I talked about earlier on, obviously a lot of us use NPS for all kinds of measurement. CX measurement through NPS has been tried, tested, worked on for almost 15 years right now. I think Fred Reichel came up with NPS back in 2003, 2004, I think. I don't remember exactly when. But it has been, kind of the gold standard for at least kind of customer satisfaction, I think. Although there's a lot of debate around it. Let's not I don't feel like debating that right now. But one thing we wanted to kind of, a lot of our customers came to us and like, NPS is great for measuring, but we still have a tough time understanding root cause at scale and across products. And then what about, realistically customer kind of engagement, really? And so we kind of came up, that was the real problem that we were trying to solve. Is not just about measurement, but, measurement, root cause, churn, and co-creation. So we got to like combine all these things into a single, we wanted to combine all of these things to a single construct, really. And so we came up with, at least what we are calling NPS Plus. So it's a model where, it builds on NPS. So that's why it's NPS Plus, clearly. So it builds on NPS, but we also allow customers to say like, okay, here are the 5 reasons, based on existing data, existing sort of responses that we've collected, and say that we think these are the 5 reasons why you're happy or sad or not that happy. Are you a promoter or a detractor? Obviously, we know that, but these are the reasons. And we literally kind of generate those reasons based on data that we have already collected. And then that gives us a pretty good analysis of the root cause of a particular behavior. And then furthermore, then we ask customers to give us, interesting ideas of how we can change that, how we can improve that. If you're really happy with it, what can we do better? If you're not happy with it, what can we do better still, in both ways? And then not only that, people can vote on each other's ideas also. So kind of creating the concept of co-creation in that same process. So you don't have to go somewhere else. In that same kind of transactional CX process that a lot of our companies run. We run about 120 different CX programs on behalf of our customers. And we looked at it and said like, hey, we're already engaged with our customers. They are out there giving us feedback. Why don't we ask them how best to improve? What are the new ideas that they have? And not only can they give us ideas, they can look at each other's ideas. They can, and obviously vote on each other's ideas. And through this process, not only obviously this becomes a source of innovation, source of ideas, but through this process, we also get a churn prediction model. We also, Ken has come up with a churn prediction model based on looking at the reasons between the passives and the detractors, and how they respond to the root cause question, really. And from there, we could determine a kind of a process for determining kind of churn realistically, because the basic thesis there is that if your passives are behaving like your detractors, your passives are going to be your detractors if you don't make a change. So that's kind of the overarching thesis behind NPS Plus. And the final thing I want to talk about is, again, towards employees, like what can we do? What can we truly innovate? What can we do about, employee engagement? And obviously, we've tried this ourselves. We've done pulse surveys and said like, hey, how are you feeling? Weekly, monthly, daily, all kinds of stuff. And one thing we realized was that, and asking the same question again and again every week is kind of annoying after some time. It's kind of cute the first 3 times, But if you just, and we've done it ourselves, we've asked the same question, hey, let's just have a weekly pulse and ask you how you're doing. I mean, it's great for the first 3 weeks. After the 4th week, it's kind of annoying, quite frankly, because it lacks business context. Realistically, asking the same question like as a hey, how you doing is not very fruitful from a kind of, because it lacks business context. And the business context is held by kind of the operational guys in the company, right? I mean, the head of sales wants to understand, not how his sales guys are doing. It's like what kind of sales material do they want? Are the sales material rollout that they've done here, in the last week, is it working? Is it not working? The head of customer success wants to ask a different question, and then the head of kind of development wants to ask a completely different question. Engineering wants to ask like, hey, we rolled out a continuous integration kind of model with DevOps. Is that working? Is that not working? So if you think about it, like we need to democratize the asking of questions realistically, not and have a process and a system in play. And that's kind of what that's what we wanted to solve for. And we think that that's not solved for today. Like everybody, HR runs the pulse, but HR does not really kind of has that visibility into each of the business problems that are happening across the entire enterprise, really. And so Pulse Ask is our solution to that problem. And anybody in the organization can ask a question, post a question to be asked on the Friday, and that goes out to their group. And there are some security restrictions around that. Do you want to send it out to the whole company? Do you want to send it out to all the people who report up to you? So head of sales can ask a question, the head of marketing can ask a question, and the head of engineering and the head of customer success, they all can post their own questions, and then it goes out to the right people, based on an organizational hierarchy. And then they get actually real operational value out of the tool set realistically, as opposed to like, hey, we want to know, if customers are happy or not customers, sorry, employees are happy or sad. That's cute, like I said, the first 5 weeks, but realistically after the 6th week, it's like, I don't care whether they're happy or sad. I mean, I launched a new program. Is it working or not working? So that's what we are trying to achieve with the Pulse Ask. So these are the few new features and tools and innovation by the team at QuestionPro. I'm really proud for the entire team here at QuestionPro for preserving through COVID and all the challenges that we faced over the last 6 months. I will tell you, we like I told you earlier on, like we have a big team, a strong team in India that we in the States obviously are used to working from home. So the work from home versus work from office kind of is, I would say, like a lot easier for us to absorb than cultures like India and Mexico, where a lot of the work a lot of people have never worked from home in their entire careers because it's not done that way. And so I remember back in I think March, April, when we decided, like, what, obviously, there was a lockdown, we still have to function, so everybody's going to go, we scrambled around it. And I'm personally definitely very proud of the fact that we've been able to kind of obviously overcome that. And, I think that's that kind of is emblematic of what QuestionPro is all about. I founded the company on the belief that, companies should and could do more and better by their customers realistically. So we've not raised money. So our kind of, by necessity, we have to make sure that our customers are absolutely blissfully happy. Not only happy, they're blissfully happy, they're delighted. That's something that, I've hoped that, we've ingrained into ourselves, that we have to make sure our customers are successful effectively. I want to share a quick kind of anecdote around just making sure, around customer support realistically, right? This happened about 8-9 years ago, 2010, when we were spinning out a product called IdeaScale, and I was actually doing customer support. This was after I had started QuestionPro. I've been running it for a few years. I just put myself on the customer support line, and I was taking phone calls just for partly for shits and giggles, partly for kind of making sure I had my kind of eyes and ears to the ground. And then a lady called Gina Cooper, she called up and said, like, hey, I wanted to set up this CNAME record for DNS for askthespeaker.org. That's a mouthful, I know, from a technical perspective. But if you're slightly technical, it's like what you wanted to do was, make sure that her community was mapped to askthespeaker.org, which is a custom domain effectively. And to do that, you have to log into your GoDaddy account, set up your DNS record, then make some changes on our system so that the two talk to each other. And that's the only way to do it. So because as you know, your domain name is hosted by your domain name provider, we are just hosting kind of the content effectively. So she called up. I was on the customer service line, and I picked up the phone and I talked to her, and I said, and I had two options. Like I could say, like, dude, that's not my problem. You gotta go talk to GoDaddy and go through the process. But what I ended up doing was walking. I knew she wouldn't be able to do it. She was a nonprofit, small nonprofit, and she don't have an IT team internally. So I actually went on the some version at the time. Zoom wasn't there. It was live meeting or something like WebEx or GoToMeeting or something like that. And I kind of walked her through kind of her GoDaddy account, logged into her GoDaddy account, how to log into the GoDaddy account, and then kind of go through the whole process. And she was obviously successful. Within 20 minutes, we were able to get it done realistically. Now, and it turns out that, that experience, she was obviously happy with it. And she was like, and that was not the end of it, right? So she turns out that she was actually also the kind of executive director of Netroots Nation. Back then it was the liberal blogosphere. And then she was also later on, she introduced me to somebody who got us into the White House actually. So that particular conversation led us to a deal with the White House. We were featured on the White House blog for IdeaScale. One thing led to the other. And today IdeaScale is, at least 60% of our revenue comes from federal government contracts because of that, realistically. So I'm not saying, so that's something that I think has helped from just making sure our customers are successful is something that I hope that as a company we can, we strongly believe in it. We've never taken a dime of outside money, and frankly, we've had to earn everything that we've built, and we have only one kind of target for earnings, frankly, which is customers. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you. If you're not doing right by you, call me, text me. My number's out there, as you can see on the screen. That's actually my cell phone number. If you don't believe me, text me right now and I'll respond to it. If you need some help, call us. If you think our products could be better, if we could do one thing, let us know. We're always listening. And that's our mantra. We answer to you. Thanks a lot. Crystal?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Dan.
Awesome.
Ask you some questions.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
thanks.
Awesome. Go for it.
That was great. So we have some questions rolling in. James Nielsen, who I think you know from Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
He's on, and he has a question about AI. So he asks, do you see AI-based natural language assimilation engines good enough yet to assimilate free text answers?
Yes. If you look at even what GPT-3 has done, it is pretty mind-blowing. I've looked at demos for GPT-3 with my friends Scott and Chris, and in terms of topic identification, definitely has been done right now. I'd say it's pretty clear in terms of the number of tools available today. We don't even have to develop them. It's off the shelf to a large extent. If you look at AI, there are two broad kind of constructs there. One is effectively topic identification. What are people talking about? And then sentiment on that topic, realistically, is good, bad, ugly, effectively. So those are two key components of kind of AI, if you will. So my analysis is yes. I think off the shelf AI platforms, even like GPT-2 is also reasonably good, but GPT-3 is obviously nearly mind blowing. And we'll be working with Azure and kind of integrating that into our platform effectively.
Yeah, I've seen some of the things on that, and it's pretty amazing what it can do.
Yeah.
You can say like, hey, I want this website to look like this and have this chat, and it'll just create it right away. So, that's a little bit different than obviously free text, but it'll put stories together and everything. So it's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Cool. So we have another question. This may be kind of a question for Ken, but you can probably answer it too, Viv, unless Ken is online. But around NPS programs, would you recommend replacing current NPS program with the new NPS Plus that you mentioned?
I wouldn't say replace, I'd say augment. I think the way I think about it is you already, when people are giving you feedback, they're already engaged with you. They've taken the time. If you think about it, if you've taken the time to leave a review, give feedback to a particular customer, they either hate you or they love you. One of the two. Either way, you win. Quite frankly, if you the other way look at it, it's like even if they hate you, they're engaged with you. An engaged customer who even doesn't like you is a great way to convert that into kind of an engaged customer who loves you. And it's actually not that complicated to convert an engaged customer to somebody who hates you to somebody who likes you by just either solving their problem ridiculously fast, and having an empathetic ear around it. And that's why we have the closed loop system where we say like, look, if something happens, we'll pick up the phone, we'll talk to you, we'll at least listen to you. Right. In many cases, you may not be. I mean, obviously, clearly, if there's a problem, you cannot solve. I mean, you can solve it, but you cannot mitigate it. At least for that particular customer. But what you can do is have an empathetic ear and say like, okay, look, we hear there was a problem. We'll do what it takes to fix it. And number two, we'll try to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And so I wouldn't say replace it. I would say like augment it with kind of having a program modeling in play that you leverages. Frankly, leverages the fact that you already have the customer, connected with you, going through a survey process or going through any feedback process, whether it's a survey or not, going through a feedback process. At that time, can you do something more than just collect feedback and say bye-bye? Can collect feedback and engage more with in that process in line. So that's at least my thoughts around that.
Got it. That makes sense. I think we have time for one more question. So this one is around the new employee, the Pulse Ask app that you mentioned. Yep. Do you see it just being app-based or potentially integrated into other message tools like WhatsApp or WeChat, those other?
Yeah, we think it'll be a better served actually if it's integrated with Slack. That's kind of our thought process around it, is that the Slack has become frankly the de facto internal messaging and collaboration platform for within companies. Obviously, we use it. Most of the tech companies that I know use it, and they kind of dominate that space. So we see that as a Slack app in the future, very very similar to our mobile app and Slack app. I think we'll be integrating with Slack very tightly, and it's probably very coupled with that.